So that being said, this is a little cheesy. It survived the enhanced ACT math. The ACT math has just gotten harder if you've taken it in the past. I've heard the December one was kind of rough. I try to take some of these ACT tests, but I didn't take the December test, but I am taking the February one. Long story short, I really like math, and we will switch to ELA on Thursdays. Today is going to be an overview. There is going to be some questions, and I'm going to kind of just go over some baseline stuff. There's going to be a lot of words. Remember, please don't stress about writing every word down because I'm going to keep moving. Okay, here's warning of the words. Please don't write every word down. It will be posted. This is just, oh, got another person joining. Okay, so 2025 updates. If you didn't know, it was the ACT was updated in kind of the middle of 2025. I am really big on the TI 84 Plus calculator. We can always talk about that later, but you're going to hear me talk about this regularly. What I am doing, and if you spent time with the December test with me, I'm going to do stuff a little bit different is we are going to be spending a lot of time hacking this bad boy. Not 100% today, but in other times with like actually built-in programs, and I can talk about downloadable ones later. But in general, ACT, if you didn't know, the math section consists of 45 questions in 50 minutes, creating about approximately 67 seconds per question. If you do not know how to use a graphing calculator well, it is 100% worth it to go buy one or invest in one that you can practice with. The more and more I study this ACT, this new version, because it was different than what I was originally trained with, it is like a night and day difference with this calculator. And currently, besides one link in my bio, I am not sponsored by Texas Instruments, but I need to figure out a way to get sponsored by them because I sell their stuff all the time. So the graphing calculator is king. And I'm going to go over some strategies outside of that. Speed and accuracy, it talks like a cheat code. Other key things to know is there are 4 answer choices. There used to be 5, and there is no fill in the blanks, and there's no formula sheet provided. And so it's got its pros and cons from there. But let's go ahead and get into some more stuff. So this is where we don't go crazy and write stuff down. These are kind of my like ride or die. Please absolutely know these. So if you do not know slope, make sure you know slope. Slope intercept form. These are kind of just our key formulas that always come up on the ACT. That being said, it doesn't mean even if it is not listed on this, it can come up, but these are the ones that if kids do not know this, it will pretty much not go super well for them. So other things are exponent rules is a big one. The one I see students mess up with all the time is this quotient rule, and we're going to do some practice soon. And then distance formula, this is one I actually put in the calculator, and the midpoint formula. Other things we're going to talk about, and yes, AI made this look weird, but I will show you ones that don't look weird, is how to solve certain like of these in your calculator, actually using approved built-in programs. Yes, I have my own programs too, but there's ones that are already built in. Yes, to your question, I will post this. Okay. Because I know this would be an insane amount to write. I want to get more time to the math. Okay, so we're about to start getting into questions. Okay, do you have a graphing calculator? If not, please consider investing in one. So if you could send me a yes or no to this question right here. Oops, sorry guys, I'm going to go back. That would be awesome. Cool. Awesome. I always ask because sometimes I have to talk to parents and tell them that yes, it's actually worth the money. So I always, okay, cool. So we're in the right place. Okay, cool. So that being said, this right here is a little bit crazy, but we're going to do something really quickly together. So what I need y'all to do is discover a fun button on your calculator. We're going to talk about this one today. We're going to be talking about a lot of them too. So if you can go ahead and grab your calculator, click on the button apps, and then go ahead and go. This one looks different to number 9, which is Sim 2. I'm going to type this out because mine looks slightly different. So click apps, then click Sim 2, which is number 9. So this is one of these key things that's going to come up a lot, and I'm going to be incorporating a lot of calculator hacks as we go on. And then you click enter. So our first activity is look over this program. Give an example of a type of math problem it can be used for solving. You don't have to give me an ACT problem. Think of an Algebra 2 type problem or Algebra 1. So our challenge first, before we get into some other nitty-gritty math, is just look at this program, see what you find, and take a minute or so and send me a message if you can think of a problem that this would help with. Okay, I'm saying polynomial roots. Good. That is correct. Let's see if anybody's got one other big one. Finding roots. Anything else? I haven't seen the other one. Good, the simultaneous equation solver. So this is actually a really, really good hack. Another thing I'm talking about is the simultaneous equation solver. That one is where you can solve two equations. I promise the stuff is coming. The whole goal of this is to highlight how important this is, and my goal is to actually like sprinkle in as many calculator hacks as possible, but it's going to be spread out over the next couple weeks. Okay, I promise we're going to get into solving. Okay, so one of the key concepts on this test that we talk about a lot and that I get about a lot, actually, I get a ton of messages on this, is geometry. And we're going to be talking about just some key things to know. This doesn't cover everything. So, Pythagorean theorem, please know it. Area of a triangle, please know it. Sum of interior angles for an inside of polygon. This one comes up a decent amount, but a lot of times you can get away with making sure you know that wow, that was a terrible rectangle. A rectangle is 360 degrees. I've learned that consistently, students really struggle with remembering that. And if this seems super easy to you, I promise we are going to get into some hard stuff, not fully today, but I'm going to give you some pain in the butt. I like doing the pain in the butt math. Okay, so first nice math question of the day. What is this answer? So take a minute. Y'all kind of got the flow and send it to me in the chat. Okay, let's see. Good, good. Okay, nice. I know we're starting easy, but yes, that is correct. F is correct. And that's why I highlighted on that 360 degrees there. Now, please note, when I get into harder math problems or I see more students missing the problem, I will go over it. But when I see students on the online consistently getting the problem right, that's when I don't go over the problem, but if you're later watching the recording, you can always message me in school. Okay, so a couple things that I see students miss all the time. One is similar triangles. They are triangles with corresponding angles that are equal and corresponding sides that are proportional. So a dumb hacky way to remember this is same angles, different sides. And we'll practice some of that. I talked a little bit about the sum of interior angles, and I've been seeing this come up more and more. And one other little hack is a quadrilateral can be divided into two triangles. Hopefully, all that we've covered right now is review, but I always try to start a little bit at the base and we'll sprinkle in some strategies. Okay, let me erase this. So please go ahead and attempt number 7. Okay, let's see how we're doing. This one, like I said, should be pretty straightforward. Okay, I'm seeing a couple of variety ones here. So let's talk about this problem here. Whoops, sorry about that, guys. Let me go click back to the presentation. My computer X'd out of it. 1 second. There we go. Okay, so that being said, kind of just looking at this problem here, this is actually highlighting more than one like math concept. So for points that don't matter, does anybody know what type of triangle this is? And you can send it to me in the chat. What type of triangle is this? Great volunteers yet. Okay. Oh, I got one. Let's see. Isosceles. Perfect. Yes. So this right here is an isosceles triangle. And the reason I'm highlighting it, this is one of the, like, sometimes the things that will come up. And so key things to note with this problem here is two sides are the same. And then you've got a different value here. And why does this matter? Because some stuff comes up later on in harder problems where these two angles are the same and this one's going to be bigger. So just a little sprinkling some math there. So that being said, on this problem, there's kind of two ways to do it. The easiest of this is kind of recognizing the pattern that you have a 10 here and this is a 5, so that's proportional. And and then you have a 6 and a 3. So sometimes you do have to solve it, but this one you can kind of head math it, which is actually good to do for timing, and we're going to get into all the timing stuff too, is if you see that both of these are cut in half, and that these two are the same, then you need to assume that the missing number is 3. So what you're strategically looking for is a pattern. And then this is a pattern right there. Okay, got someone join in. So this is exactly matching. Sometimes on the ACT, there will be problems that you feel you're like, oh my gosh, this is too easy. And yes, they're trying to trick you. There will be, and they love to sprinkle in stressfully easy problems. So don't stress if you see something like this, which is also why I still try to do some of the easier stuff. Okay, so geometry secret that no one likes to talk about, but I do because I found it really helpful. So secret is assuming size from figures. So if you remember back in geometry class, if you had anything like my geometry teacher, which now is ironically my next door neighbor, which was not planned, long story. But that being said, if you were ever stuck on the ACT, you can assume sizes with the triangles, with the angles. It's not always perfect, but it does help. I have not ever seen, and we have access to historically like 27 ACT practice tests because we're ACT affiliates, and they are very consistent that these do match. And I'm just adding people in the room. 1 second. So what that means is, and these are just kind of some examples, like if it looks like an obtuse or big angle, it's probably an obtuse angle, and you can kind of ballpark it. If it looks little, it is little. If it looks like it's matching on the opposite side, it probably is matching. So do not overstress. Do not stress about as much with geometry theorems. And because a lot of this game is going to be speed and having those little back hacks of how to navigate. Okay, so this one's a little bit harder. So let's go ahead and take about like 90 seconds and give this a try. And if you just joined us, I will post the full recording and this PowerPoint, so you do not have to write down everything. And we just ask you to send your answers in the chat.
Put your answer. You're supposed to put your answer in the chat, Lacey. Come over here and go up to the counter.
Oop, sorry, guys. Okay. Okay, so I'm consistently seeing B, which is good. So I typed the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. This is something where if you are in a pitch, like in a pinch, like a time pinch on the test, you can kind of do this two different ways. So the wrong way to do about this is I have some people who are literally try to remember the formula of how to solve a trapezoid. Some people remember it, most people don't, including myself. But I do know the area of a triangle. So it says, what is the combined area in square inches of the two shaded triangles? So one good hack, like I was saying, if you're in a pinch, is just eliminate the bad answers. And just ballpark looking at this, 18 and 12 are huge, and you can typically eliminate those. And then if you just look at and make some estimates, and this is why I was talking about ballparking, guessing for the sake of time, comfortably looking at this, this is going to be 4 left over here. The way I would kind of do this is we have 4 left. Let's say this one's 3. And then this one is 1. And then we can go ahead and solve for 1/2 base times height. My biggest point with this one is I just don't want you guys to get hung up on the nitty-gritty and being like, yes, it's important to be exact, but if you hang too long on certain problems because you're leaning towards perfection, that's actually going to hurt your score more. Now, if I have kiddos in here, and I'll start talking about it more as we get closer to the test, that are very much already in the 30s or very likely to score in the 30s, I do have a couple of different strategies for you, and then we can chat about that. Okay, so next one, Pythagorean theorem. Go ahead and attempt this one and send me the message in the chat. Okay. Oh, y'all are champs. This is easy for you. Good. You're not going to like me on some of the other problems as we move forward, but today's going to be a nicer day, which is good. We will eventually get into what I lovingly call death math, but not fully today. So if you were stuck on this, or if you're watching this and you're stuck, it is the a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Your hypotenuse is the c squared, so you go 8 squared plus 15 squared equals c squared, and then you solve from there. But we look like we are champs, and the answer is A. Good. Okay, so let me go ahead and move this. So this is where it becomes a little bit more tricky. These are formulas that some students have forgotten or just haven't done in a while. Key things that you need to know. Absolutely, 100% is going to be the circle area and their circumference, which like area equals pi r squared, c equals 2 pi r or pi d. I really am hoping that this is a review for you, but I do touch on this stuff because I do get kids consistently missing it. Um, Even I have also learned, like, if you are a kiddo in here who math has come really easily and maybe you're in calculus as a junior, sometimes the easier stuff is actually what is destroying your score, and sometimes you don't even realize it. I have run into that time and time again, is my calculus level students are consistently missing the easy stuff, and not like in a bad way. It's just because I haven't done it in so long. So that would be an example. And then, so the other thing that no one likes to memorize, but it saves your bacon a little bit, is this equation of a circle. So equation of the circle is this, where HK is the center and R is the radius. Now there's a little tip. And I'll put a little star right here. On your calculator, if you click on the button, and I should have put a picture, I might need to do that later, on apps like we were going to earlier, and then you go to number 4, which is conics, and you hit that number 1, which is circle, it has the formula in there. So if you're someone that's like, I ain't memorizing, then this formula is in here. And I see this dang formula come up and haunt people again and again. Now, if you are someone who is in or needs to be in the 30s for their math score, you got to memorize this. You just, everything is going to be speed for you. and please memorize it. So there's my little tangent there. There will be certain skills that we discuss. And if you're in Florida, you will understand this. In Florida, if you get a 29 on your ACT super score, you get 100% of your tuition covered for a state school. So I will talk about strategies that are really good to get into like a 20, even a 25 or a 29. And then there will be niche strategies for my kiddos who are like dead set on like a 32, 33, 34, because those are different skills. Okay, so another thing that is also built into the conics is an ellipse. I do see this haunting people. And this is also in the conics button. I do see this come up from time and time again. The key thing to note, and I don't have a problem with the ellipse today, but I'll try to put some on there, is whenever something is near the X, it's probably related to an X value, and same with Y. But I've been seeing them sneak in ellipse questions, which is a really fancy way of saying oval. Okay, math time. So please go ahead and give this one a whirl. This one's not as nice. Seeing a lot of G's. Oh, I got an H in there. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, I'm seeing age. Let's see. Okay, before I get into the answer, I'm doing this very strategically for a reason. So I am really big on if ever you're in a pickle, like just kind of giving you some other options of how to strategically find the answer. So before I give you the magical answer, go ahead and in the chat send me two awful answers. Like it's absolutely humanly impossible that it will be right. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but I have my reasoning. So give me two awful answers because there's almost always two. Hmm. Okay, so let's see what our awful answers are. F and K, F and K. Okay, so we do get the trend. The reason I say that is I've worked a lot with one-on-one students and I do classes too, but I try to use some of the same strategies as much as possible. Is what will happen is a kid will get this problem and they'll look at it and be like, well, I don't know the formula. Let's move on. And like not even eliminate the bad options. So regardless, please, please, please eliminate the bad options. Don't overcomplicate things. So I'm going to do this a couple different ways. So first off, for my friend who, let's see, I saw at least one person get it right. I want to see who it is. So off the top, the answer is H. We're gonna get into that. I'm seeing what y'all put. I know I got someone. Y'all were on a G train. Wow. Okay, there's a whole lot of G's in there. Okay. So off the top from the key of the ACT, the answer is H. So let's kind of work from there. So I am going to do it and pretend that I have forgotten formulas and all that stuff too. So basic formula, 6 times 8 of a rectangle is going to be 48. Like hopefully y'all know that. And this is where we start assuming by shapes. We all agreed that that was terrible and that was terrible. So, and then we have a little bit more space. So this right here, this is what's tricky. Like this is not a radius. The 6, nor is the 8 a radius as well. But here's kind of a fun thing. We can start going like that and making some assumptions, but I'm going to pretend that I'm really, really confused. So I know 48 is at minimum and I need to go bigger than this. So let's start looking at what these are relative. So if you say 16 pi, you'd be like, whatever. So I would just type in on my calculator 16 times 3.14 or pi, whatever floats your boat, and know that that is 50. So think about that for a second. If this whole thing is 48 and 16 times 3.14 times pi is 50, that's not possible. So you eliminate that. And then now we're down to 2 others. So 25 is going to be 25 times 3.14 is about 78. I'm trying to teach you guys a couple of like different strategies to think about it. And then you've also got 48. 48 times 3.14 is going to be 150. So I'm saying this because you can logically work this out without memorizing or stressing over every dang formula. I am really, really big, and if you spend time with me, you know this. I am really big. If I can turn that bad boy into a decimal, I will. Okay, I see a question. 1 second. Sorry, when I'm on the writing, it won't let me. So H, yes, H is the answer. And y'all will notice too with aCTPrep, I am going to teach it differently than your math teacher does. And yes, there's always a classical way to do things, but I have learned with teaching aCTPrep, and I am a licensed teacher and all the things. But I've learned with aCTPrep, if I can teach you how to backhack and logic out a problem, you're way likely to do better. So, okay, onward. Equation of a circle. Please go ahead and attempt this one and let me know in the chat. This should be way easier after I stumped y'all. Okay. So I'm seeing a live B. Okay. Well, hopefully y'all all didn't copy each other, but the answer is B. That's what I was talking about earlier. Let me go back to my screen. Is just if you can read this really fast, it is helpful, but you know, like R squared is the end of the equation. So then you start eliminating A and T, and then you're down to these two, and it's always going to be the opposite sign. So the answer is going to be B, which is going to that like X minus H squared plus Y minus K squared. Okay. So here's the part I lose people really fast. And like I said, this is a good thing not to all, this is like a high level situation. So please don't go crazy. So SOHCAHTOA, I have a really short YouTube video on this. We'll talk about it briefly. I'll try to sprinkle it more in later. It is pretty much that sine, cosine, tangent. I can almost bet really good money that they will have one of these SOHCAHTOA questions on there. And especially if you're someone who's going for a really high score, you got to know that. Amplitude and period. So I'm going to teach you a little bit of an easy hack for this. So we're not going to memorize all of this. I have calculator programs I religiously use that are downloaded that solve all this for me. And I'll go ahead and answer the question. Yes, the calculator programs are approved. I pretty much used them in a way and created them, edited them, vibe coded as a variety of things that are designed following all the ACT rules because our company is listed on the ACT website. So I was like not playing around, but we'll talk more about that later. But this is going to come up amplitude and period, SOHCAHTOA, and then law of cosines keeps sneaking its dang way in. Yeah, we'll get into that. The good news with the law of cosines, and if you've never seen it before, there's a hack to do it so you don't have to like deeply understand it. I don't like the law of cosines, but okay. Speaking of law of cosines, go ahead and attempt this question. I'm going to give at least 2 minutes to give y'all time to answer. We'll work on timing later. Right now is like exposure to questions. Okay, if we'll give about 1 more minute. If you were wildly stuck, think about eliminating the worst options and at least taking a swing at it. Okay. Y'all all apparently, like I said, you guys are on the right track. So the answer on this one just off the cusp is B. So let's kind of talk about why. So give me in the chat the worst possible answer out there that's like, ugh, when you see it. That's like yelling at you. Good. Good. And then I forgot to make one disclaimer for the math section. The new version of the test only has 4 options. You will see old stuff that has 5 options because it's pulled from an old form of the test. I am pulling like the content that is being tested the same, like it's the same content. They just recycle it a lot, and this is some of the materials they recycle. So I promise it's relevant. If you see 5 questions and you're a very analytical person, please do not stress. There's just not a ton of practice tests out there. But that being said, this is from an old ACT test, and this concept they really love for some odd reason. So good. The ballpark answer, like that's wrong, wrong is A. And then the key hack with these is you don't have to memorize this, but on the law of cosines, what's always in there is going to be what I call like a focus angle. There's probably a better term for that, but it's the angle that it's talking about, and it gives you a massive hint that it's 5 degrees, and you look at the direction, and so the focus angle is going to be 5. So then I start eliminating all of these, and then I start looking at my other options from there and just pretty much plugging it in based on this formula. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. So this one, take a minute and go ahead and give this a whirl. What is the amplitude of this function? Okay, y'all are killing it. So if you were stuck or watching the recording later, there's a sneaky one right here. If you struggle remembering it, there's good programs for it. But it sounds complicated, but you're just looking for the front number. And so the answer is G. It's a nice little freebie there. I love these questions because I'm like, oh, it's a free one, and I get to move on. Okay, we're almost through. Okay, so statistics. Even if you've not taken statistics before, which probably most of y'all, you don't have to stress over it. The statistics that come up consistently is going to be ones that you actually covered in middle school, and that is what is killing a lot of people's score. So on kind of a couple of things, whoops, let me turn my video off, is mean is the same as average, and if you're rolling your eyes at me, they're like, okay, why is she covering this? I have people in my office consistently who have missed these questions. And so this is why I talk about it. Make sure you know that that means median is the middle number, mode is the most common number, and standard deviation is pretty much how far it is away from the mean. All like, especially with a standard deviation, you don't have to calculate it. You just, when it comes up, you just have to recognize the vocab. So these do come up and haunt people all the time. Questions. And if you're a junior about to take the SAT in March, because the last school day SAT, the SAT loves those. Okay, so go ahead and please attempt number 29. See how y'all are doing. Oh, y'all are ready. Okay, so this answer is going to be B. But this is kind of how it comes up. It's always like a variation of, whoops, this vocab word. And so it's kind of key. Like if you don't know the word median, then you're really going to be struggling. But if you're stuck on this, it's just because if you add two to each side, it's not going to change the middle number. And the answer, like I said, on this one is B. Okay, other things that come up. This, I would say, this was a little bit more line vocabulary than geometry. So parallel lines is really important that they have the same slope. And then perpendicular lines are the ones that intersect. And these are going to be the negative reciprocals. For example, like if the slope is 2 and then it's going to be a negative 1/2. So I hope today's a review for a lot of y'all. Okay, let's get to some more work. So hopefully you guys can all see this one right here, but which line is going to be perpendicular? Ooh, this one is kicking y'all. So if you did the free diagnostic, which like I said, there's some tough stuff on there. This one came up. And if you want to do the free diagnostic, I have it linked on last week's, and a lot of it's behind a paywall, but this practice test is free and it's not behind a paywall. Let me go back. So one thing I wrote is your goal is to put it in y equals mx plus b form. Some people can do this in their head, but there's plenty of people who cannot do solving like this in their head. So what I do with this situation, which a lot of y'all at least started out pretty strong there, is you divide this all by 4. So that's going to be what? Y equals 3 divided by 4, x plus 5 divided by 4. So that's a good, whoops, I forgot the X there. We're gonna pretend that the 3/4 has an X next to it. I'll at least write it. Oh, that's even a worse X. Okay, so that being said, for a perpendicular line, this sounds really cheesy. You got to flip it over. So the 4/3 part is right. And this is what kicked most of y'all, is you have to change the sign. So there's got to be a negative there, making this answer B. Okay. So it's B because, wait, why 8? Oh, that's a fair question there. Like, where is the 8 coming? Hmm. That I have to go back and check where the 8 is coming from. We're mostly focused on the slope part. Now I'll go back and look at that later. I'll have an answer for you now. But the key thing is actually the slope. It's a fair question though. Now I'm gonna go down the rabbit hole and figure that out later. Let me go ahead and clear. Okay, so line behavior, let's see. Yeah, thank you, Ileana. That makes sense. My stubbornness, I want to go back and calculate it and just double check things. But yeah, I would just look at the slope, but it's fair. Okay, so that being said, line behavior is really important. This was covered, I believe, a lot in Algebra 2. And then one thing that comes up a good bit is also if you take in college algebra, depending on if you like do dual enrollment or not. And so some of this is really easy for people, some of this kills them. So just kind of basics is vertical shifts is going to be outside and it's like positive or negative up and down. And then horizontal shifts are always kind of opposite. So for example, if it's that parentheses x minus 3, you're not going to the negative, you're going to the right. Like I said, a lot of this should be review. Okay, this one, let's go ahead and do this one real quick. I'll wrap up. I'll look. Oh, I'm gonna end on time. Cool. Sometimes I overplan. Awesome. Yep, the answer is A. So that being said, this one's a really good example of them trying to be a pain in the butt and distract you. And this is what we'll talk more on kind of like later weeks. Like this all stuff is like just distraction. And I am the person, like it helps me a lot is just to kind of skim through over this is I always like read under this transformation, this will go. And then I just backtrack and like look what it's actually asking. And it's just going down 4. So don't let this fluff distract you. Okay, so these are like massive ACT mistakes I see. This is like from classes. This was from working with a lot of people in person, one-on-one. One thing I see a lot is like solving really fully instead of back solving or guessing and checking. We will talk a lot about just like plugging in. You will hear me explain things differently, like earlier, how I just eliminate the bad options and then just kind of use logical conclusions of what the answer is, instead of like focusing on memorizing the formula, though there's some formulas you need to memorize still. And then number 2 is not knowing their graphing calculator well. At the end of this, like I said, I apparently need a pitch to Texas Instruments to be sponsored. But that being said, you're going to think that I personally get paid from this calculator. I'm very committed to it, but I do not. And we will talk a lot about hacks, and I'll be sprinkling them in throughout. Number 3, I just highlighted is reading the entire math question instead of skimming. They like to throw in a bunch of garbage and fluff that is unimportant and they're trying to slow you down just to be difficult. And then number 4 is not moving on to the next question because I know some of y'all are perfectionists or you get really mad at a problem and then we'll spend like 5 minutes on the problem, wasting a ton of time. And we will talk more about timing later, but one of the things that you can do now is in timing is if you don't know it, skip it and move on. Like that will actually buy back more points than anything else. So that being said, I talked a little about the flow of things. I will post to the school group the homework probably the middle of the day tomorrow on Wednesday. Thursday will be an intro to English and reading. So to be more intro style like this with more practice questions. And then the homework will be more explained, like pretty much more explained next week. And the homework is going to be going down the grammar rabbit hole and Algebra 1 stuff. our goal in the beginning is to get as much exposure with the math as possible so that you can in turn move forward and like kind of go from there. That all being said, I would normally save time for questions. If you guys have any quick questions, I will stay on for a couple minutes, but if not, y'all are free to go and I will post this. Speaking of which, I have two ACT books I bought my mom. Do I have to use either? So it depends. If you want more practice, then yes, I would. For me, I like more practice. But if you're a kiddo who doesn't want a ton of practice, then it's totally up to you. Just make sure that they are up to date. So, example, if you have the red book, if it says 25 through 26, then that's good. Same thing with your other stuff. Just make sure it's up to date. I also like the practice books for if I'm going to do like a whole practice test, then that's like, oh, perfect. You actually have my two favorite ones. And I don't mean that to be cheesy, but those are the ones I like. Yes. So I would actually save those if you want to do like a whole practice test or at least like a whole math section times. That is when I would use those big time. That's what I do. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here. I will post this shortly and I hope y'all have a great day.